A contractor sends a $5,000 quote on Tuesday and hears nothing back. He gets busy on another job that week and never follows up once. Today you build the system that chases every quote until somebody answers. Otherwise the deal dies in silence and nobody ever learns why it died. How much finished work have you already written off without asking once? This is education, not financial advice. By the end you will own a system that recovers the quotes you already wrote off. Welcome to Moolah IQ, where we make personal finance, investing, and trading simple. Picture your phone buzzing with a yes on work you had already forgotten about. 5 pieces, and 3 decided: the forgotten tracker, the sleepless clock, the break. According to Velocify, half of all sales leads are never contacted a second time. Ask any contractor how many quotes are sitting open right now today. Most of them guess, and the guess they give you is always low. The ones they can't name are the ones that quietly expire without a decision. Step 1 is a tracker, and you start by ruling 6 columns across one sheet. Who the client is, what the job is, and exactly what it costs. The date you sent it, and 1 column reading still open, won or lost. Do this if you send more than 3 quotes in a typical working month. Below that number you can keep using a notebook on the passenger seat. Setting the whole thing up takes about 15 minutes, once, and then never again. The hard part is not the sheet at all, it's the typing afterward. Every quote that leaves your hands has to land in a row that same day. Miss that typing and the entire system goes completely blind to that one job. This is exactly where most people quietly abandon the thing they just finished building. 10 seconds of typing, and then you close the laptop and walk away from it. Flip the status word later, on the day the client finally decides either way. Nothing else in this entire build waits on your memory or asks for your attention. You're finished when one real quote is sitting in that sheet filled in properly. 1 row, and the build finally has something real and specific to work with. Nothing you construct after this needs a second place to go looking for a job. That one sheet is the place, and no other file on your laptop replaces it. From there the system runs every hour of every day without being asked twice. A cabinet maker I know kept his quotes on paper pinned to a corkboard. 2 of them slid down behind his desk and turned up 11 months later. Both were jobs he could easily have won with one single polite message. He never found out, because nothing in his shop was watching that corkboard. In step 3 you will see exactly how quotes like those 2 get saved. The sheet on its own is just a list, and lists don't chase anybody. Somebody still has to open it every morning and decide who deserves a message. Remembering is the exact thing that already failed you in the first place. Step 2 is the trigger, and it's what wakes the system without you. Inside Make, add a watch rows trigger and point it straight at that sheet. Set it to fire whenever a new row arrives carrying the word open. Give it 15 minutes between checks, which is far faster than any client expects. Do this once the sheet has at least 1 row sitting in open status. Skip it entirely if your quotes still live in your head and your text messages. The scenario wakes up holding the name, the project, the amount, and the date. That's everything a follow-up needs. Hand it over without a single question asked. You know it works when a test quote wakes the scenario within 15 minutes. 1 row in, 1 clean run out, and the scenario finishes without stopping anywhere. Without this one piece, somebody has to open that sheet every single morning forever. You built this same trigger in the review engine, which went out last week. Same watch rows module, a different sheet, and the wiring has not changed at all. Copy the old scenario, change the 1 sheet field, and the pattern carries straight over. That copy is the entire migration, and it honestly takes you under 5 minutes. This is what stacking one skill onto another actually looks like in real practice. The second build of anything always costs less time than the first one did. Here is where most people stall out, and it's genuinely worth naming plainly. They rebuild everything from scratch each time instead of reusing what already works. The pattern itself is the asset, and you now own 4 different ones. 4 patterns is a service, and a service is something a business pays for. What the trigger still can't do is decide when the message should go out. A trigger that fires the moment a quote is sent is just noise. Send a nudge 1 hour after the quote and you look desperate, not diligent. Send nothing for a month and the client has already hired somebody else. Step 3 is the clock, and it decides when each nudge actually goes out. Add a second scenario that wakes itself up once every hour on the hour. It reads the sheet and does the date math on every open row it finds. 2 days after the send date, the first gentle check-in message goes out. 5 days out, a warmer note offering to hold the price a little longer. 10 days out, a quiet close that leaves the door open without any pressure. Consider setting the send hour to something calm, like 9 in the morning. Do this only after the trigger has run clean for 1 full day. A broken clock sitting on top of a broken trigger is very hard to read. You know the clock works when all 3 messages land in the right order. Compress the dates on one test row and watch all 3 fire in sequence. The research here is unusually clear about how much persistence actually pays off. Sayent ran a study across roughly 30 million contact attempts. Their report found that 81% of sellers stop at 5 attempts or fewer. Velocify, working from about 3.5 million leads, found something similar. 93% of the leads that eventually converted were reached by the 6th attempt. You already built this exact hourly loop earlier in this same 5-part series. Same hourly pattern, a second paying job, and it earns for you a second time. The exact wording matters far less than the simple fact that something arrives at all. Silence is the only outcome here that guarantees you get absolutely nothing back. They send one nudge, hear nothing back, and decide the answer must be no. The answer was usually just a genuinely busy week at the other end. Picture a quiet Tuesday where 3 old quotes turn into real paid work. You did that work months ago, and it finally pays you today. A perfectly timed message that reads like a form letter gets deleted anyway. Generic wording turns a genuinely good system into junk mail within about 1 week. Think about the last automated follow-up that you deleted without reading it. It probably greeted you as a customer instead of using your actual name. Step 4 is the wording, and it makes every message sound human. Add an AI step inside Make, sitting between the hourly clock and the send. Feed it the client name, the project description, and the full quote amount. Instruct it to write a short, warm check-in with no pressure anywhere. Tell it to name that specific project directly in the very first line. So the 2-day message asks whether the deck quote actually came through okay. Do this before you send a single one of these to a real client. You're finished when you read the test message aloud and hear the deck named. Make sure you read every version out loud before it goes near a client, and your ear catches the salesman tone long before your eyes ever will. The client feels genuinely remembered instead of processed by somebody else's software. That feeling is the actual product you're selling here, not the automation itself. Nobody answers a message that obviously went out to 300 other people. Keep every single message under 4 sentences, from the greeting to the sign-off. Long follow-ups read as desperate and get skipped before the second line. Ask exactly 1 clear question, then stop typing and let the silence do the work. Set the tone once in every message after it inherits the same voice. 1 badly worded sequence can cost you a client you had already won. The wording is the cheapest part of this build and the easiest to rush. That's the whole personalization layer, and it costs you 1 afternoon. Coming up in step 5, the piece that keeps this whole thing honest. Everything you have built so far only knows how to send messages. It does not yet know how to stop, and that's genuinely dangerous. A follow-up sequence with no break on it will eventually embarrass you badly. Nobody should ever receive a polite reminder after they have already said yes. Step 5 is the stop, and it keeps this system from becoming spam. Add a filter that checks the status column carefully before every single send. If that row now reads 1 or lost, then nothing goes out at all. Add a second check that watches for any reply landing in your inbox. The moment somebody actually answers you, that row goes quiet permanently and for good. Do this in the very same working session as the clock you just finished. Flip 1 test row across to 1 and confirm the silence that follows it. No message goes out, no error appears, and nothing sits waiting in the queue. The stop matters every bit as much as all 3 of the nudges do. Then add 2 running totals at the very bottom of that same sheet. Quotes sent this month and quotes actually won this month, sitting side by side. You should watch what that ratio does across the first 60 days. Write those 2 numbers down on day 1, then write them down again on day 60. The gap between those 2 dates is the entire sales conversation already finished. Remember that cabinet maker from the very beginning of this video. He was closing 4 quotes in every 10 and never once understood the reason. After a season of steady, polite follow-up, he was closing closer to 6. Nothing about his pricing changed, and nothing about his craft changed either. The only thing that changed was that somebody finally asked a second time. On $5,000 jobs, that difference is one extra job every month. That's the whole system, and it runs whether you remember it or not. 5 working systems now, and this one recovers the biggest dollars of them all. Subscribe if you're getting value from our content. Which of the 5 are you building first, and for what kind of business? Work you already finished deserves an answer, and asking for one is not pushy. Most of what we lose in a year, we lose by going quiet. This is Moolah IQ, helping you increase your financial IQ, one wise decision at a time. You have 5 working systems now and the words to sell every one of them. Pick one, build it this week, and put a real local name on it. Next time we sit down with that first paying client,